Hello Spunker, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about addiction and how you can overcome it, because even if you aren't fully aware of your addiction right now, the chances are there is something in your life that you cannot stop doing, which is one of the main reasons for why you are not where you want to be in your life right now. But for most of us, we do know what our addictions are, and we're just in denial about it. We're in denial about our bad habits, and perhaps we just need the guidance to, help us break free from them. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do in this video, because nobody else seems to be doing this efficiently on the internet. And to do that, I'm going to be starting off by telling you about my own addictions, and more specifically about my addictions with porn and how it stopped me from being where I wanted to be. So let me take you back to when this was a real issue for me. And this was probably about, 5 years ago. About 5 years ago. And this is when I was at uni. And, I was spending a lot of my time in my room, not doing my assignments, which is, just a classic thing, really. Classic uni student life, where just avoiding everything that I should be doing and doing the things that inherently make me feel terrible. And that thing that I did the most was watch porn. And I didn't realise it at the time. Maybe I thought it was just an escape. I thought it was a way of enjoying myself, having time to myself. But actually, it was doing a lot more damage to me and my mindset than what I initially realised. And I think for a lot of us, and probably you too, you might not even realise how detrimental this shit is to our brains. Like, it actually fucks shit up, man, honestly. And it wasn't until I actually had an actual sexual encounter, as in a real life one, not one that just happens with pixels on a screen, where I realised that, holy shit, my brain is actually fucked here. Because when it came down to a sexual experience, or just in general, any kind of interaction with a girl, even if I was just in a club with a girl, I'd be extremely socially awkward, and the sexual encounters, Christ. I mean, I'm going to get just proper kind of raw and authentic here with you, but the first time I was actually able to have sex, I literally thought I was broken. It was a calamity, if that's even a word. But basically, I'd worked my way up. I thought, oh my God, it's finally happening. I'm about to no longer be pure, and, well, it was just terrible. My penis just didn't want to know. It just wasn't working. It just wasn't working. And you could put this down to loads of different things. Maybe it was the nerves, whatever, pretty common for a first time. But I would say that the main reason for this absolute outrage was because I had desensitized myself to sexual encounters. I didn't actually realize that there was a huge difference between the porn that we watch on our screens and what actually happens in real life. I thought I was meant to be a certain way. I thought the woman was meant to be a certain way. And it just didn't work, bud. Okay, so that was that. And I very soon realised that I couldn't keep doing this. It took me a little while to put two and two together to realise that, porn was actually one of the main reasons for why this was happening to me. But eventually, when I was able to, stop this addiction and stop just crumbling away to this bullshit, right? That was when I was able to, actually have some decent sexual encounters and not be such an awkward bastard socially around girls. And that's not to say that I don't have issues sometimes here and there, because we're all human, that's just kind of the way shit is. But I'm definitely not where I used to be, a few years ago. And I definitely put that down to stopping my addictions getting in the way of me. So basically, I want to try and help you to understand exactly what I did to stop that addiction. Because, as I said at the start of this video, there's a high chance that there is something that you know very well, my friend, is stopping you from being where you want to be right now in life. And that could be a number of things. It doesn't just have to be porn. It could be the fact that you can't stop playing Clash of Clans on your phone, which is definitely not another thing that I used to do every single day of the week. It could be that, maybe you can't stop drinking alcohol. Maybe you can't stop smoking weed. These are all, very common addictions. And what's funny is that they all kind of have the same solution as to how to stop them. I've done a little bit of my research. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a scientist, but I've also been through my own experiences. And with all of this kind of information, I'm going to try and come up with a viable solution that you can stick to. And hopefully, we can get to the bottom of this, man. So let's basically get into it, son. So to begin with, what you have to understand is the end result. And that end result is basically to no longer give power to the addiction. And to do this, there are a number of ways you can do this. And that first thing is to temporarily count the days of how long you have stopped this bad habit or this addiction. So in order to do this, you can write it down and you can track it on a piece of paper. You can hang this up on your wall or whatever. And what I've just said there are going to be a lot of guys who would tell you not to do that, because when you do that, you're giving too much power to the bad habit. And it's absolutely true. But I think initially, this is absolutely something you need to do, because every day when you mark off the fact that you haven't done this bad habit, you're going to feel a sense of pleasure from this. You're going to feel like you've accomplished something, right? And every day when you tick it off and you see that you haven't done it, you're going to be motivated, okay? Now, the reason I say you want to do this temporarily is because if you keep doing it, there are guys that, I see online that are, following NoFap, for example, and they haven't masturbated for X amount of days. And they'll, make a comment and they'll say, I've been 353,000 days without fapping, for example. And I just think that every time I see that, I feel like it's a recipe for disaster, because they're giving so much power to this idea of fapping, even though they've spent this amount of days without doing it. And that all comes under this kind of umbrella of identity. And this person who's saying, I haven't fapped for this amount of days, has identified themselves as somebody who is on NoFap, right? And you don't want to be doing this. If you don't want to be fapping, then you just don't fap. You don't need to identify yourself long term as someone who is on this like NoFap kind of streak, blah, 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 blah. And that's the same thing with drinking alcohol. It's the same thing with playing Clash of Clans or any other games. Eventually, the whole kind of plan with this is that you just don't want to be paying attention to the bad habit. You don't want to be paying attention to this addiction, okay? Because this is when cravings start to happen. And this is also why meditation is so important. This is why it's so important to be able to control your mind and be able to take yourself back to the present moment, which is essentially what meditation does. It allows you to ground yourself and really just kind of block out any other thoughts, in the future, in the past, and you just think about, what's happening now. You ground yourself and you just kind of think about your breathing. And that's why it's a skill, because the more you're able to do this and the more you're able to practice mindfulness, the easier it's going to be for you to ignore these cravings, and the easier it's going to be for you to not give any power to your addictions. The next thing I would suggest is that you actually replace your old bad habit with a good habit. And there are plenty good habits out there, buddy. I'm pretty sure you can actually think about what these might be. But just, off the top of my head, obviously you can go to the gym. That's like a foundation part of self-improvement. Everybody knows that. Go to the gym, learn how to fight, start eating proper food. You can, start to read. You can go out and socialize with your mates. Go and kick a ball around in the field, Just distract yourself with something else. So as soon as you have like some kind of craving, you want to associate that craving or that urge with actually a different habit. And that's going to switch your mindset, and it's going to allow you to not be at the mercy of these urges every single time, If you're still struggling after those tips that I've just mentioned to you, what you can also do is add friction. And what I mean by this is essentially, let's say your addiction is that you can't stop scrolling on your phone. You go from Instagram to TikTok to Snapchat, back to Instagram again, and you just repeat this on cycle. I mean, I think most of us have been there. I've definitely been there. Ultimately, to add friction to this addiction, what you can do is actually put your phone in another room. And it sounds so simple when you say it like that, but that is essentially what it means to add friction. You make it harder for you to access that addiction. You know, if you can't stop smoking joints, you know, you literally just hide, you know, the weed, hide the raw papers. If you can't stop playing games, you know, sell your bloody console, whatever it is, you know, do what you need to do. This is how extreme you have to go if you really want to make a difference to these bad addictions. It's not going to be easy. Of course, it's not going to be easy, but nothing worth having comes easy. That's kind of the whole premise of this. You know, it's supposed to be difficult, man. And the next thing that I'd suggest you do is that you find somebody who will keep you accountable. Maybe you can speak to a friend, maybe you can speak to your brother, you know, any of your family members, and you can just tell them what you're kind of going through. And if you tell them, just doing that is going to want to make you stick to it, because you're going to feel like you're almost letting them down as well if, you know, you break that bad habit. And if you don't, you know, have anyone that you'd like to share this with, then what you can do, mate, is actually join my Discord, because there's going to be other guys in this Discord that are all going through very similar things to you right now. And I'll also be active in the Discord, and, you know, we can talk about this one-to-one. And I feel like this is honestly the best way to kind of get the ball rolling with this, man. So take some action, my friend. If you really want to do this, you know, don't waste any more time, mate. Okay, so take the action now. Join my Discord. I'll leave a link in the description below. Believe you can, and you're more than halfway there.